Senator Mark Kelly is a Democrat from the border state of Arizona. He supports the president's move, and he joins me now. Senator Kelly, welcome back to the NewsHour. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me on, Amna.
Let me ask you about the president's move today, because to take this step some 3 weeks before the first presidential debate, some 5 months before the election, when polls do show immigration is a top voting issue for many, leaves many to think that it's a political decision and not a policy one. As you've noted, Republicans walked away from a border deal back in February, but the president has always had this authority. So why this move now?
Well, first of all, Arizonans and folks who live in other border states deserve to have real solutions for this problem and deserve to have a border that's under control. It's often been out of control. I've been in the United States Senate for about 3 years, and it's really been unfair, especially to people who live close to the border. I talk to mayors and sheriffs all the time about this issue. And we had an opportunity, and you talk about the politics behind this, we had an opportunity with bipartisan legislation negotiated by Democrats and Republicans and the White House, worked on for months. We were right up to the finish line on this legislation. And the politics of the presidential election superseded everything, where the former president, Donald Trump, decided that he did not want this legislation passed and was able to get my Republican colleagues in the Senate to run away from a comprehensive piece of legislation that was going to help the Border Patrol, help CBP, help communities in southern Arizona and other states.
Yes, sir. And as I noted, pardon the interruption, this was back in February. So President Biden could have taken this action sooner. Why now?
Well, he's been calling on Congress for the last 3.5 years to do something on this issue. We were going to have more Border Patrol agents on the border, funding for that, more CBP agents, judges to adjudicate asylum claims, machines to detect fentanyl, changes in asylum policy. These were all very positive steps. I spent a lot of time on the border in Arizona, and it's very unfair, especially to the Border Patrol agents who often lose control of the situation. The president was put in a situation where he had to do this unilaterally without Congress. But ultimately, the solution is for Congress to come back together. I hope this can happen soon. It may have to wait to after the election, unfortunately, and have not only a border security bill, but comprehensive immigration reform that supports our economy, to help us, grow our economy, to provide for companies the workforce they need.
Senator, let me ask you about what President Biden has said previously, because he did slam then-President Trump for using this exact same authority to restrict asylum years ago. Here, President Biden is actually debating Mr. Trump back in 2020.
This is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case.
Senator, the question is, why should migrants today not have that right under international law and U.S. immigration law to make their case?
Well, this is different than what President Trump did.
It is under the same authority, though, to restrict asylum access.
Well, it's under the same, essentially the same federal authority to put restrictions. But this doesn't, change the ability for individuals to come here and seek asylum. What it does is, if the numbers go up to a point where it's unmanageable, we will temporarily close the southern border for people to enter between ports of entry. They will still have the CBP-1 app to lawfully seek asylum. That's available today. It's been available for some time now.
Senator,
so there will be pathways.
That's a very restricted app with very restricted access. This would essentially restrict access across the southern border for people to arrive and make an asylum claim.
It's true. Well, I don't agree with you that the CBP-1 app is restrictive. It may be challenging at times to get an appointment. But the idea behind the app is you register ahead of time, you go to a port of entry, you get an appointment for an asylum claim. People will still be able to do that. What will happen, though, if the numbers go up above a certain average in a given week, until they go back down, we will restrict people from coming across the southern border. Hey, we are a country of immigrants, and it's very important to me that people can come here when they meet the requirements to have an asylum claim that they can come to our country, especially children, people that have special needs and other issues that they're facing in their home country. That's important. But what's also important is that this is safe for Border Patrol, for CBP officers, for people who live in these southern border communities. And over time, it has not been a safe situation. It also needs to be safe for the migrants. When Border Patrol gets overwhelmed with the number of individuals and people are waiting in the desert essentially with no water, no food, and Border Patrol can't manage this, this is not good for them. We have migrants that die, that pass away in the desert. We're trying to get operational control over this situation. It's unfortunate that the legislation in February did not pass. That provided Border Patrol, CBP, with the tools they need to manage this. But it became political because of the former president didn't want this issue solved. So Republicans ran away from this. Ultimately, Amna, we need comprehensive immigration reform, and we need border security.
Senator, I have been on the Mexican side of the border during previous times of border restrictions and seen families who then have to decide whether or not they will decide to send their kids alone, because obviously unaccompanied minors still do get access. Are you at all worried this is going to fuel another potential crisis of children arriving alone at the U.S. border?
Of course I'm worried. I mean, we don't want to see kids winding up in a situation where in Mexico they are separated from their parents. That's not the goal here. I was speaking to the Ali Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, today about this. And as we roll out these changes in policy, what we expect to see is the number of individuals that are entering our country between ports of entry and who are not using things like the CBP One app and other lawful means to come to the United States and seek asylum, that those numbers will trend down significantly. That's the expectation.
That is Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat from the border state of Arizona, joining us tonight. Senator Kelly, thank you for your time. Good to see you.
Thank you, Amna.